Pagliacci. Have you ever heard those commercials on TV at night? The music of Verdi, Rossini, Mozart, and the immortal Pagliacci. He's just one of those composers, you know. We're going to... It's a laugh-a-minute life, I'll tell you. Incidentally, I'm delighted to report that my favorite season has arrived once again. Yes, this is when I can enjoy one of the true American art forms this time of year. The halftime ceremony. Oh, I love the halftime ceremonies. To me, that's an American art form. You don't find halftime ceremonies anywhere else in the world. Now, have you ever thought of the halftime ceremony as a true expression of the American spirit? Well, you will now, after I tell you this. I mean, where else in the world are you going to see 45 girls marching in unison with everything going, you know? Oh, fantastic. Wearing buckskin bras, gigantic 10-gallon hats, and shooting off Roman candles at the same time, all the while giving a salute to America's poverty, which is what I saw the other day watching television. I'm sorry, you know, those announcers that do those halftime PA bits, you know, you hear them. You don't often hear it because Kurt Gardy always keeps getting in the way. You know, Kurt Gardy's always interviewing somebody about a pass formation, and if you can see over his shoulder, the real show is going on. And you can hear the announcers saying something like this. Would you give me a little echo chamber there? I'll make it sound like a PA system. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the halftime ceremony. Siwash University's Marching Golden Mustang Band now salutes one of America's difficult problems of the day. And now the Golden Mustang Band salutes Watergate. Have you heard that? You haven't heard that kind of stuff? Well, I guess when you spend all your time down at the local bar, it's hard to hear that over all that yelling and fist fighting that's going on. And I have to admit that a lot of people haven't heard that, but that's because they don't really listen. Oh, no, just a couple of months back, in fact, last season, already we saw the trend toward the sociological relevance-oriented halftime show. Now, the old halftime show used to consist of this, a little more PA again. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Siwash University Halftime Ceremonies. Today, featuring the Halftime Ceremony Marching Band, the Golden Mustangs, under Dr. Frank Watanabe. Today, salute the music of Richard Rodgers and Rodgers and Hammerstein. You heard those, right? Okay, that's the old-time show. That's all over again. It's no longer a relevant show. Dum-ba-dum-bum. Oh, listen, did you know that one time in my speckled checkered career, at one time I did hockey play-by-play? That's right, and you're curious what team I did it for? The Mohawks of Cincinnati. Cincinatti Mohawks, playing in the Cincinnati Garden, owned by the Montreal Canadiens. And I'll never forget one night this friend of mine come up to me saying, you know, doing the play-by-play, you know, you got certain connections, see. And so, yeah, I had a lot of connections, you know. The connection consisted really of a Class E telephone line that came out of that place. And the line was so cheap that we used to do the hockey play-by-play that it was the only telephone line I've ever seen that had no highs, Joe. Are you listening, Joe? This telephone line that I worked on doing the play-by-play out of the Cincinnati Garden had no highs, it had no lows, and it was one of the few telephone lines I have ever seen that had no middle. And so I came out sounding like Donald Duck. You know, I'd say, and now they're taking it up to the blue line. There's a pass over to Watanabe. There's a pass back over to Watson. Watson now passes in. He's circling around the ice. There's a shot. There, it's in the stands. Well, one day, I did hockey. What a wild scene. One night, this buddy of mine, he says to me, he says, you know, comes up, he's an engineer, you know, just like all engineers are basically freebies. I've never known an engineer that, no, they are, let's face it. And he kept, no, I don't mean that to be nasty, Joe. I only report the news. I do not make it. And so he comes up to me one night, and he says, hey, he says, listen, he says, I love hockey. And I said, all right, Bob, you love hockey. What else is troubling you? He says, well, he said, I every time I buy a seat down there to the garden, he says, I'm sitting way up there. He says, so far back. He says, I got a pair of binoculars, and I have trouble even seeing the ice with the binoculars. Well, that's true. You get these $3 seats. The price of sports has gone up to the point now where many a guy, has to decide whether to take his 2-week vacation in Bermuda or go to see the Knicks. So, nevertheless, he decided, he wanted to see the game. So they were playing the Hersey Bears. You heard of the Hersey Bears? That's a hockey team. Well, Hershey, you know about Hershey candy, right? There's a team called the Hersey Bears. It's kind of a play on the term Hershey bars. You don't get it? You do, huh? Okay, good, fine, I knew you would. And they have chocolate-colored uniforms. They really do. Big peanuts painted all over them. So, nevertheless, I'm seriously telling you the truth. There was also, there was the Cleveland Club. They played all the time. But the Hershey Club was really hot, see? So he wanted to see him play Hershey. So I said, okay, Bob, I'll see what I can do. So I went to see the PR guy, and I said to the PR guy, I said, hey, listen, PR guy. I said, it's been 7 weeks now, and you guys haven't paid me, right? And he says, that's right. He says, we're hoping for an upsurge in attendance here soon. And I said, okay. I said, now, since you haven't paid me for 7 weeks, and I've been doing the games, right? They've been on the air? I mean, I really did them? He says, that's correct. I said, well, then what do you say that you slip me a freebie ticket? How about slipping me a freebie ticket for an old buddy of mine? He says, very good. I'd be glad to. And now, kids, men, women, children, birds, and seagulls that are listening to this, there is a lesson in this. I want you to listen to the lesson. It was one of those nights I learned a lesson in life. So I gave him the tickets. He was abject. He was just abject in his gratitude. I hate to see a grown man go down on his knees and cling to your knee and cry. A grown man, and not only that, he had a first-class phone. I mean, that kind of guy shouldn't have to do that, but anyway, he was, because that's what sports do to you today. Listen, I've known guys. I knew a guy that wanted to get to see the last World Series, when the Mets were in the World Series. He wanted to get to see a World Series game so bad, he couldn't get a ticket. This guy wanted to get a World Series game so bad that you know what he had to do? He traded his wife to another guy for 3 weeks. Well, now, let's face it, if you knew this guy's wife, you know that wasn't much of a trade. And the only reason that he traded her, he didn't trade her for the reason you think he traded her for. She went over there and did the weeding in the backyard in this guy's house for 3 weeks. That's all she was, yeah. But nevertheless, he was willing to do that. And he did. He went and saw the ball game. By the way, it was a disaster. The Mets lost that game. And, that's always the way it goes. He came home madder than hell. On the way back, somebody stole his hubcaps on a Utopia Parkway. It was just a bad scene. So, anyway, my friend came to me, and he said, please get me a ticket for the Hersey Bear game. And I said, all right, I'll get you a ticket. At that time, the Cincinatti Mohawks were in a head-to-head, as they say, push and shove struggle with the Cleveland team for last place in the league. Right. And so naturally, there was a great crowd interest in this game. And there was, actually. There were thousands of people came out to see the game. And my buddy was sitting right down in the first row. I got him a seat right down there with the real people. And he was sitting right down, and I could see him up in the booth. See, I was up there, and I'm saying, the face-off, it's time for the face-off, and the crowd was roaring. 5 minutes into the game, 5 minutes, he didn't even see 5 minutes. 5 minutes into the game, one of the Hersey Bear players took a pass. He's coming up over the blue line. He got a fantastic check, and as he does, he swings, passes the puck over to the other side of the blue line. The guy catches it on the edge of his stick. The puck ricocheted, and I saw this crowd gathering around, and the next thing you know, they're carrying this victim out. Guess who it was? I'd like to tell you it was Bob. It was not Bob. It was a girl Bob had been working on for over 3 weeks. And he figured he'd really show her a good time tonight, They took her to the hockey game. And for 3 days we visited her at Memorial Hospital there. She caught a puck right in the left ear. No, it wasn't in the teeth, it was in the left ear. It was fantastic. She had the biggest ear I ever saw in my life after. It was ear over 3-4 feet round. Tremendous. And the puck was embedded right in it. And she was like a living, walking Stanley Cup trophy. And so there's a lesson in this, friends. Beware of anything that comes free. Look it right in the eye. And then grab it and run. Listen, I got a package the other day. I don't know what express company sent it, but it was fantastic. I mean, have you ever seen a package that was less than a millimeter thick? And it started out 2 feet square. Oh, no, they had some kind of a machine that just flattened it out. You know, it saves space, you know, in the truck and all that stuff. And it said fragile all over. That's true. They didn't break the string that was around the package. And they didn't tear the paper. And I guess that's what the fragile thing referred to. But it was a fantastic package. It started out 2 feet square. Came from an electronic company out in Chicago. I ordered it. You know, it came out 2 feet square. And when it arrived, Joe, the package was over 7 feet around and a millimeter flat. It's amazing. In fact, you're talking to the only guy that you know who has a stereo set that he can roll down the street now. That's right. It's just fantastic. You can see through it. Hold it up to the light. It's that flat. But that's what happens. That's what happens. Of course, it works. The amazing thing about it, it works. So you never know where you're going to find truth, right? You don't know. And tonight I've decided to deal in it. Guy wrote me and said, "Shepherd, what's your hobby?" Now, I don't know whether it's any of his damn business, because I may have a hobby he doesn't want to hear about, right? Have you ever wondered what my hobby is, Joe? No, I don't wonder about yours either, so I guess we're even, right? In fact, I don't give a damn about yours, because I know what yours is. Any guy that goes around and embroiders lampshades for a hobby, forget it. Unless they're erotic lampshades, you know, expressing the inner Joe, you know, that kind of stuff. That's okay. With the beads, I like that. The frou-frou on the bottom. You know what frou-frou is? It's a French dancer in the Folies Bergère. You don't know her, huh? Oh, she's something. But nevertheless, my hobby, okay. I might as well be honest with you. I did have a hobby one time. My hobby, when I was about 7, I don't know how I got started on this hobby. You don't know. You know, what is a hobby? A hobby is something you do that you don't expect any return from. That's truly a hobby. You know, your work shouldn't be your hobby. It isn't your hobby. Nobody has work as a hobby. Although a lot of people enjoy their work, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's your hobby. You see, your hobby is something that is done that completely is removed from the whole process of earning a living and anything else. It's just and man is the only creature that has hobbies, unless it can be proved that a horse is kicking you. That's their hobby. It could be. I don't know. You know, I know one guy. Oh wow, fantastic! Right over the garage, and the horse was 18 years old. Never knew he could kick field goals like that. Boom, just gone. And yeah, caught him on the bounce too on the other side. He got hit terrible. He hit the other side, bounced twice, and right into a Sears Roebuck lawnmower that was working over there. But you can. Are you thinking about that, Joe? Good ghastly image, isn't it? Sounds like the end of one of the great Walt Disney films. You can always tell you're watching a Walt Disney film. It's got Dean Jones in it. Right. The perfect Walt Disney hero. Has absolutely not a single thought ever shows in his eye at all, at any point. Right? He's always co-starring with Suzanne Plachette and the Dachshund, or a duck, or a goose. Yeah. That's you could write Walt Disney films like every 5 minutes. There's a machine that turns them out, actually. It's called the Walt Disney Film Machine. You just crank them out. But there are them that like it, right? Mm-hmm. I enjoy it, certainly. Right. Oh, well, you probably like Devil Dogs and Yankee Doodles, too. Right, okay. Nothing wrong with that. I know a friend of mine that likes Yoo-Hoo. He whips up a little batch of Yoo-Hoo at night, once in a while, puts vodka in it. Yes, sirree. Right? That drink has a name, vodka and Yoo-Hoo. You didn't know what that is? Huh? You don't care either. Well, okay. I mean, you can order it if you want. I better not. We've always wore off the air. It's got a great name. Oh, man. Who threw the inner tube in the Yoo-Hoo? But nevertheless, my hobby. Oh, yes, my hobby. You want to hear what my hobby was? Well, my hobby at one point at the age of 7, I got very deeply involved in the hobby. And my hobby was collecting match covers. You know what match covers are? Well, I collected match covers. And you collected those too for a while? Well, I started to collect match covers. Now, when you're a kid, you first collect match covers by walking around and looking down in the gutter. And you pick them up out of the gutter, you see. And then you realize that match covers come from certain places. And then you begin to actually go to those places to get the match covers. In other words, Charlie's Bar and Grill. If you want a Charlie's Bar and Grill match cover, and you keep looking around for one, you don't find one. What do? You wind up drinking the bourbon in there to get some, right? And at the age of 8, I began to drink heavily, because that's where all those match covers come from. And then I finally got turned off. My mother finally flipped when I started to bring home my best prize as a match cover collector came one night, though I was already fully grown up. And I've always kind of been sorry that I gave up that hobby, because lately there's been some great match covers showing up. Yeah, I was with this girl over in this elegant East Side restaurant. And you know that most girls, whenever they go into a very expensive restaurant, immediately they need to buy cigarettes. You've noticed that? It's a gut reaction to an expensive joint that has no cigarettes for sale, unless they're $4 a package and they're imported from Belgium. You know, that kind. Well, so I knew this. So we walked into the restaurant there in a very elegant place. Luigi's, you know, name like that. Had this marquee out in front. And it's very dark in there. The little candles guttering away. We walk into Luigi's. And the minute she says, oh, you know, you get that sound, you know, you hear it in the voice. She says, oh, I'm so sorry. I says, yes, Mabel. She says, I'm so sorry, but I'm out of cigarettes. I says, of course you're out of cigarettes. What else? We're in Luigi's. Naturally. You never run out of cigarettes at the Chock full of Nuts. I know you have, and not once have you run out of cigarettes when we've gone, sightseeing at Woolworths. Where do you run out of cigarettes? Luigi's. The Four Seasons. This is where you run out of cigarettes. I said, and of course, you want cigarettes. Is that correct? Oh, if you don't mind. Well, I went over to the machine there. They had a silver-plated machine. You know, these elegant places, they have a machine that's designed to fit the decor of the place, not just one of those ordinary bus terminal type cigarette machines. This was a Rococo machine. It had little touches of Gothic and a little Andy Warhol. It was a very elegant machine. And it's the only machine I knew that only accepted $5 bills. Now, most machines I'm used to have a little slot. It says 2 quarters, 5 nickels, 7 dimes, and 18 pennies you have to put in, right? This one says $5 bills only. That's a, you know. And incidentally, the machine was painted to look like the shirt front of a head waiter. So I whipped out the $5 bill, and I said, what kind do you want? She says, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, of course it doesn't matter when you're operating a $5 cigarette machine. Take what you can get. And so I put the $5 bill into the slot. And you know, they have one of these little lights that can tell the difference between a $5 bill and a $1 bill. And if you think I'm kidding, friend, did you ever try to put a $1 bill into a change machine? You seen those change machines where it says $5, $1? There's 2 kinds, you know. Or do you only go into those cheapy joints that give you change for a quarter, right? That's your speed, right? So I put the $5 bill into the machine, see, and the machine goes, you know, it sucked that $5 bill up. Oh, I'll tell you, Luigi himself couldn't have done it better. You know, he's got a magnet, you know, a $1 bill, a $5, $20 bill magnet. In fact, he's got a palm that rejects anything less than a 20. Automatically wads it up and spits it back at you. You know, you get it in the ear. So, nevertheless, this machine user up goes the $5, see, and the guts were operating. And down at the bottom of the slot comes the cigarette package, right? Well, now this is a very elegant place. In fact, it's so elegant. You know the whole idea of camp, don't you? This entire place was all done in let's say nostalgic decor. You know what nostalgic decor is, don't you? 1932 calendars on the wall, right? Humphrey Bogart, big picture of Humphrey Bogart. Instead of where it says men, they have Bogart's picture on the John there. right? And instead of women, there's a picture of Carol Lombard. I mean, you know that kind. You know the kind of guys that go to places like that. You know, I don't have to, pound it down. So anyway, we're in this place. Very, very elegant. What kind of cigarettes do you think come out? Do you think L&M's come out? Do you think Marlboros? No, 20 grands. 20 grands. They were. Yeah, it was nostalgic cigarettes were coming out of the machine. That's why you paid $5. They ain't made the 20 grands, for heaven's sake, since Al Capone got put in the big house. Right? 20 grands. I turned to her, I says, are 20 grands all right? And there was a pregnant pause, and she says, well, if they don't have wings. I said, what the hell am I in here? So at that point, I give her the 20 grands. Yeah, these cigarettes, 20 grands. There's a picture of a horse in the front there with a horseshoe around it. It says 20 grand on it. That's 20 grand. I said, what are they? Are you sure they use tobacco in these? She says, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm being funny. And at that point, the machine goes, and it kicks out with a package of matches. The little matches comes out the bottom. And what do you think it said on the matches, huh? What do you think it said? It says, help fight VD. And at that point, come on, Joe, get that thing going. That's right. It says, help fight VD. I thought maybe the machine is trying to tell me something. I hate machines that editorialize, especially about something as personal as, what the hell are you going to do with that? So I said, you want matches? She says, yes, please. I gave her a package of 20 grands, and I handed her the box of matches, She reads it. She says, what's that? I says, well, that's Luigi's brother. His name is Virgil Damagelli, She says, oh, that's interesting. She says, this help fight VD. I says, well, he's kind of a mean type, and he's trying to take over this place. We've got to help Luigi keep the law, keep the lease, and the whole thing. And so we sat there for 15 to 20 minutes, and she smoked her 20 grands, And I discovered that the place not only was nostalgic in its cigarettes and its decor, it was also nostalgic in its food. You ever eaten a 3-day-old pork chop? Yeah, well, it came right out of the old day, Same pork chop that Sidney Greenstreet fooled around with in a big scene in the Maltese Falcon. Yeah. You want a little juice, Master? All right. God, it never stops, does it? Well, well, now listen, you know what some of the other cigarettes that this machine had? I went back, I said to Luigi, that's a fantastic cigarette machine. And he says, oui, monsieur. It's not every, cigarette machine makes a 7,422% profit. So he thinks it's a great one, too. And how much money do you think that you've put in your time? I'm asking a hypothetical question out there. How much money do you think you have put in your time into various slots and got nothing back? No, I'm very serious about this. I just wonder, this is one of the deepest held secrets, I think, of the entire phone company. You never hear any talk about that. How much money the phone company gets in dimes that you put in, and nothing ever happens. I'm just curious how much they make in a year on that. I'll tell you, I personally myself, just in Radio City, over in Rockefeller Center rather, here the other day, I'm running through and I have to make a phone call. See, so I rush into the phone, and there was on the wall there, and I pick it up. And it says 10 cents, right? So I put the dime in, nothing. I hit the coin. Have you ever seen a coin return thing ever work? No. Well, that's called a placebo. It's just like the button they put into the elevator. You know, the one that's they have it says closed door. Have you ever seen one of those work? Well, a lot of people think they do, you see. That's what's so crazy. They get in there, and they stand around for 20 minutes, and then they hit the closed door button, and then the door closes. They think that made it close. You know, from that point on, and then he wonders why the button has such a long delay when he tries it the next time. He gets it doesn't work at all. In fact, there's a lot of buildings when you walk in, and it says up, you know, the little elevator button is 742 stories. You walk in this building, you press the button up, and it lights up. And you actually think that has something to do with the elevators. No way. They're all on an automatic system. You know, they go up and down, you know, zip, zap, bam. And it doesn't make any difference. And so I put many a quarter into many a machine. And you get a kind of a fatalistic feeling about it. It's like, well, you know, you deserved it. It's a sneaky-looking machine. You come up to the sneaky-looking machine, you put a quarter in it, you deserve to lose, right? I mean, you know, this terrible mafia machine standing there, and you get smart with it. It says, don't tilt. You start tilting, and a big fist comes out, cracks you in the mouth, says, cut it out. Who do you think you're shoving, Mac? Bam, right in the mouth. So, anyway, you want to hear what the other cigarettes were in this machine? Marvels. You mean you never heard of Chelsea's? Right, the Chelsea cigarette. You want to know another one that was in there? Cubeb. No, I've only read, you know, about Cubebs. That's something that F. Scott Fitzgerald's characters are always smoking. Cubebs. Fatima. You could get the Fatima. Or, if you're one of the illiterate, the Fatima cigarettes come out of there. And they were all in this machine. You know? So stay out of Luigi's. I mean, it has no relationship. No, actually, it's kind of nice there. It's the only place I know where they reuse the salads. You know, they just wash the lettuce because it's all plastic and it's all comes in. You know. So 6 of one, half does the other. You pick a few as you can. In fact, did you read about the guy in the restaurateur the other? Oh, you want to hear about the winter? You thought I wasn't going to get back to the winter? All right. Scientists have reported that temperatures today are 1 3/4 degree colder than they were 15 years ago. And they're 2.4 degrees colder than they were on an average 50 years ago. Regardless of what you say, friend. Bring it up. If you're curious, here it is right here. Here's the official report from the UPI, right? Oregon State University Oceanographic Scientists. After a 3-year study, have released their findings. Right, and you know what the theory is? If you think Watergate was bad, well, you hear this one, friends. The theory is that within a very short time, we will be in the grip of another ice age. Oh, man, that's even worse than inflation. Can you imagine all them polar bears coming down on Main Street, you know, and the icebergs floating up the